And welcome back to BLOCKTV, where it is time for Blockchain on Booze, that segment in the week where we get the wheelers and dealers and some of our correspondents to answer questions while trying to keep sober. Joining us today, luckily for us, is first and foremost, your first-time victim, Guy Armon, cryptocurrency analyst. Hello to you. With us again, lucky us, or Lokay Cohen, vice president at Bittax. Hello, all. And now, for the coup d'etat, for the present of the day, Asher Westrup Evans, BLOCKTV's senior analyst, sans, without a jacket and with a beer.
I'm feeling more relaxed, Yael. I'm in my comfort zone.
I'm not buying it, but I'm going to get you drunk. So, Facebook, ladies and gentlemen, the news of the day to me, okay? We got into the office today. We read that Facebook supposedly might, not completely confirm, launch their global coin somewhere around the end of the month. Either way, I think it is safe to say this is happening fairly quickly. And that's the push there. Now, according to the information, that's a tech news site, big news this week, Facebook, and I'm quoting, plans to cede control of its forthcoming cryptocurrency to outside backers, a move meant to encourage trust in the digital payment system and reassure financial regulators. That is according to that site, in addition to the fact that they might be launching it. This digital token is expected to be unveiled later this month. A few things that come to mind. First of all, if it is true, why do we think they're rushing it? Everybody turns to Asher.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well, happily kicking it off. I mean, look, I think this is a matter of they're claiming this. I want to talk about the seeding point first. They're claiming that they're seeding control, giving nodes out, spreading it out around the community, right. And to me that just seems like this sort of token move, to use the pun appropriately, this token move to just sort of claim like they're not really the masters of this affair. Like there's some sense of decentralization when really, I mean, come on, who are we kidding here? When Facebook is in control of this, Facebook is behind it, Facebook's backing it, Facebook's funding it.
Facebook will decide its fate.
Facebook will decide its
fate.
fate.
All the decisions.
Exactly, yeah. It's going to be run all through the platforms of Facebook, WhatsApp, everything, Instagram, everything that's owned within that network. I mean, really, who are we kidding? I think this is just a sort of playing games to make regulators feel a little more comfortable.
I tend to agree. Do we really think they're going to cede power and make this a decentralized operation?
No, I don't. But I know.
Does it matter?
Yeah, this is it. I know this is the worst thing to say here in this table, so
nothing
please don't shoot
nothing
me.
Is off the table.
But I love global coin. I'm going to buy global coin.
Wow.
I think Facebook is the best thing that happened for global adoption, for mainstream, I know. What can I do? This is what I think. I'm going to buy.
I mean, I do think that there's something to be said, and that's the first thing that we thought this morning. When you have nearly 3 billion users, and you introduce them to a digital coin, you have a starting point that cannot be beaten, and you have a mass adoption phenomena like that.
Yeah, I agree with the fact, and I don't agree with Or on this issue. I think that global coin will be adopted because of Facebook
usership view,
everything that we know all about Facebook, but I think there's a big issue with privacy regarding this project, and I believe that Facebook have enough power as it is, have too much power as it is, and now getting all our financial data as well. I rather the dollar. I rather the currency being governed by the state, and in a matter of trust, I would trust. I don't know if Facebook is trustworthy in dealing
in
with
my opinion, I don't think they are. I don't think they're trustworthy. Does it matter?
Why? What you see is what you get. You're not going to. You don't have to expect privacy.
But what is the advantage?
Facebook. This is a social media.
What is the global coin advantage over?
I'll tell you what.
Traditional currencies like the dollar. I mean.
What is the advantage? Let's hear.
We have technical aspects that this is the issue for people to adopt cryptocurrency, right? There's a barrier. Facebook can deal with this barrier better than us. How did you thought that global adoption will be here in cryptocurrency? If not with Facebook, if not with Starbucks, if not with Walmart?
But hold on, let's talk about this decentralized vision, this idea of what we're putting out there. I mean, if we just want blockchain technology to get out there and cryptocurrencies to get out there no matter what, then I do agree with you. But if we're talking about actually having the decentralized vision, I mean, Facebook is making itself the Federal Reserve of the world, effectively. I mean, if this really gets to the market reach and market saturation that Facebook has, they have a greater population on their platform than any single country in the world.
I'm going to beg the question, doesn't it even have the potential to kill Bitcoin? Seriously, this can become...
I don't think so. I think they are going to pave the way for regulation, for global adoption, and for the technical issues to people to adopt it. That is it. They're going to pave your way for the things that you are fighting and that you are fighting in your everyday basis.
But as they pave the way, I mean, and I agree, I don't necessarily think they're going to kill Bitcoin. I think it serves two very different markets, and I think Bitcoin will always have a place, whether it be speculative, whether it be store of value, and depending how this global coin comes out, as it's been suggested as a stable coin, whatnot, I am deeply concerned that if this becomes the international means of trade for a number of, maybe not the essential industries, maybe not for crude oil or for other sort of gold or other major commodities, but for between person to person, customer to customer, I just think this is too much power centralized under one person. Remember as well, Zuckerberg controls the voting majority in Facebook. This isn't the board of directors. This is Zuckerberg.
It's Zuckerberg.
I can't agree more, and I would add that now we know Zuckerberg, and let's say that he have good intentions, but who comes next? I mean, who comes next after Zuckerberg? We've seen this in dictatorships in the history,
always going to be somebody.
And now Facebook became so much powerful. It's more powerful than any dictatorship that we've seen. And if we'll get the financial data as well, and they'll have the control over their economies, so we are in a different level of centralization.
I'm wondering, Ashik, at the beginning of the week we were discussing, and you reported on Facebook, and actually, the major, so to speak, investigations at the Facebook that were brought forth this week, that they'll be facing some antitrust, not just reviews, but most likely, in Europe it's already happening. There have been massive fines slapped on Google. At that respect, I mean, first of all, I don't know if these two are related. I don't think they're related, that this is why this is happening. But it is a concern, or actually, it is a concern that, they have too much power. Do we think they're rolling it out faster because of this? Does this give them even more power?
Well, I think it might be a case of striking while the iron is hot before regulators really get on track and actually start putting things in place, because once that infrastructure is in place, a country can proactively regulate after the fact, but they risk being left out of an already established economy. And that's the thing. If you create this supranational sort of economy that can exist within the framework of Facebook, and then say the EU decides to opt out, maybe it'll be too damaging, too late, and the infrastructure will already be in place.
And I'm wondering also, there is a risk. Okay. There is a risk in operating before regulation. There is a risk, and they're taking this risk.
But don't we think also that if they operate before regulation, the regulation that will come about will be tailored just to them?
I think they have covered their.
That's the thing that I'm thinking.
I think they are covered. They're behind with the regulator already, and we heard some rumors about
CFTC already. I mean, the thing that's confusing this week, the CFTC already met with them. They say that they're not going to come under their jurisdiction, but even a source from there said that it's looking all very exciting, which is the first time a federal agency sounded so optimistic about a digital coin. But yes,
I think we should be also optimistic, because they are going to do a new thing in cryptocurrency. You know what it will be? People will actually use it. So
look, it's a fair point.
They will make you use your cryptocurrency.
But again, we should go back to the question: what is a cryptocurrency, and what it's about? I mean,
I think nobody can. I think that we're yet to agree what it is.
Maybe we can't agree what it is, but perhaps we can agree on what it isn't.
What it isn't, and further than that, what is blockchain technology and what decentralization means? I mean, because this is the essence. And global coin.
Okay, global coin. I mean, I hope they change the name, because the name is positively Machiavelli.
They can rebrand it.
Yeah, they should rebrand it.
We had a name for it, the Zuckbuck. It's there. It was out in the world. We've done the marketing for them.
Okay, moving along now. Will the poster child for ill-conceived ICOs be crypto's regulatory test case? This is before Facebook. Once again, rumors came out on Facebook this week. The biggest story was the Kik SEC, and I still think this is huge, the SEC suing Kik now. And they've asked for it, okay? That's me saying. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission is cracking down on Kik, we know that, the Canadian social messaging company, suing them for violating security laws in the 2017 $100 million ICO. The regulatory body claims that Kik promised the purchasers return on their investment. Clearly, that did not happen, making it an open and shut case under the Howey Act. But that is if Kik identified itself as a security, which obviously they do not. That's the essence of this thing. In a statement released Tuesday evening in response to the lawsuit, CEO Ted Livingston, that's the head of Kik, the CEO of Kik, said the SEC complaint presents a highly selective and grossly misleading picture of the facts and circumstances surrounding our 2017 pre-sale and token distribution event. We look forward to presenting the full story in court. So they want to go to court, okay? But at the time of this breaking out, Kik tried to raise money from the sphere. People who have given the money have already dropped out because once this SEC lawsuit came about, it seems, I don't want to say fairly clear, but the SEC is a very strong case. Okay, they have a very, very strong case, which can go badly not just for Kik, but for most ICOs that were launched in 2017 who are still fighting to not be considered a security. Do we think, first of all, that Kik is the right company to represent this big battle against the so-called mountain that is the SEC?
If I think the Kik is the right one,
Yeah.
I think that the SEC picked the right one to begin with. Because the
That's not good for us, but yes, explain.
Yeah. So first of all, you have to say, what is utility? What do you sell? What services do you give? Is it stickers? Is it, can you buy with this something? Can you use it for something?
Is it a unicorn? No, yeah.
Yeah, but is there really a utility token? If you are expecting profit out of it, is there really a utility token? And it's interesting because authorities around the world have tested this case, not Kik case, they've tested the utility versus security, and they're saying utility is not a security. It's not covered under the security regulators, right? It's a different animal. We don't know why.
We know what it is, but it's not a security.
So everybody just ran to the track of a utility token. But what is utility? If you are going to make profit out of it, and in the end of the day, you can see BNB, and you can see a lot of utility tokens that do sell something, but still you expect profit out of them. Are there really utility tokens? This is the question.
Kin, you mean, are they utility tokens?
No,
Yes.
are there even in the
Conceptually,
world?
There's a
Any
concept of utility token. Yeah.
Because you buy this and you think it will be worth more, right? You're going to make profit out of
I'm
it.
investing so I can get something out of
exactly.
it.
So you
Currently, apropos Kin, they're selling for half the price than people invested in them in the last week. So clearly, I mean, it bodes very badly for, I think, for Kik anyway, Kik/Kin across from the SEC.
But you've also got to, could be a case of, I mean, maybe it's over-promising, under-delivering, but on the same time, you've got to look at the investors, and they've got to have some accountability as well. I mean, they're buying into what's claimed as a utility, but they are doing it for speculative purposes. So they have to be also, there has to be a recognition, and I'm not talking from a legal perspective, I don't have all the legal know-how necessarily in that sense, but just from an investor perspective, the fact that they should be aware that, if they're buying in for speculative purposes, they might get stung. And it sort of seems to me, it rings a bit of chutzpah, I guess to say, that they're sort of coming in now and complaining. Investors are saying, oh, well, I didn't get the profit I received, but supposedly this is a utility. So I don't know. I just find that a little bit dubious from their side as well. Legally, maybe they've got a case, but...
Okay. SEC goes to court where, first of all, don't we think the SEC actually had a complete... I mean, to me, the SEC just... I agree with you. Fell in a wonderful case to prove their case that this is actually a security in the best of ways, no?
So I think that it is not very surprising that the SEC picked on utilities because the SEC chairman said last year, in the beginning of last year, he mentioned, and they did not give like clear guidelines
at all.
For what.
Jay Clayton, yes.
Yeah, Jay Clayton. They did not give like, it's true that they did not give a clear guidance for what is utility and what is security, but it was clear for the people who were acting in this market what things are, how things are going in this market, and everybody knew that that everybody else treat these as securities, and they're looking for profit and to use them in secondary markets and et cetera.
Right.
So it's not surprising, and I think that the SEC has a case.
My fears are, can this case though, because look, everybody looks to the SEC, including around the world, never mind Gibraltar, Malta, places like that have their own regulation. But there are a lot of ICOs from the, back in the day of the 2017 ICO boom. This is decided in court. How can this reflect on people who are still trying to survive now? Isn't this bad for everybody? For former defunct ICOs?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I think they are going to determine the new test for what is security in the digital assets age, okay?
That's my fear, yeah.
Exactly. and the problem is that many of them will not survive. But the most important thing here is that they cannot do really much anything about it besides maybe to utilize more, to put more services in the utility token.
Right.
But who really needs to figure out what they're doing is the one who's going for IEO now, because this is the same thing, and they still have the chance to learn from this.
Very
taken,
true.
you know, to plan their step ahead and to maybe define better what are they going to do with this coin in the IEO, because this is their chance to, you know, to avoid this mess.
No, it's a true point. I do think that if, you know, the SEC defines KIC as a security, then they might use it as a precedent. Yes.
And this is something as well to get out. I mean, regardless of the outcome of this particular case, it's clear that the Howey test needs an update. You can't be relying on laws from the 1940s to deal with problems in 2019. It simply isn't accurate anymore, and perhaps the SEC is doing it on their terms, as you say, picking a case that really will suit their interests. But perhaps there will be at least some meaningful codifying and definition to come out of it. And I believe in the capacity of this industry, the crypto sphere as a whole, to find a workaround, at least to a modern problem, but you've got to have definitive terms.
Entirely.
Because at the moment, as you say, you're moving from ICOs to utility tokens to IEOs, and people are just shifting names and moving the goalposts slightly and trying to find a way in. But if we have a set line, maybe people can try and be more legitimate. I don't think there are plenty of scammers out there, but some are legitimately trying to create good products.
Honestly, Asher makes a great point in that respect that, you know, I think the sphere needs a lot of, I mean, it's all about reputation. Reputation is trust. Reputation brings more people in. And there's a fear of that. And, you know, it leads me to the next item that, as you said, you know, there are not a lot of use cases, but there's a lot of bad press. Here's one for you. Should crypto scam victims be eligible for support from the state? This is actually happening. Victims of cryptocurrency scams from over 30 countries claim to have lost $16.8 million, obviously, have filed a joint, class action lawsuit one could say, a joint lawsuit against the EU demanding the establishment of a 10 billion compensation fund for victims of such attacks. The substance of the case seems questionable, with crypto being an unregulated asset and governments warning that cryptocurrencies could be too complicated for certain investors and may not have proper legislative backing. First of all, do we think there should be a body like that?
That's ridiculous. I'm sorry, I'm just putting that is utterly ridiculous. You invest in an unregulated asset in a highly speculative manner, you get stung. I'm sorry, that's your own fault. You know, I'm pro more regulation being put forward in the future, but retroactively claiming that you're entitled to something from the state from a decentralized
I took a risk. I bet some money.
Yeah.
I lost my bet.
Exactly. I mean, should I reclaim my poker losses? You know,
Truly.
I play a little online poker. I should go to the state and give my money.
I'll tell you even a little bit more.
Please.
Even if you have regulation and you have laws against all of this, when somebody shoots me on the street, can I sue the government for somebody shoot me on the street? Have a little of personal responsibility, people. The government cannot enforce this specific act of, I don't know if this is a fraud or whatever, Ponzi scheme. They cannot protect you for this. Have a little bit decent sense, and, you know, think about where you put your money in.
I can relate and agree with my colleagues here and say, okay, it's the responsibility of the investors. I mean,
I want to take it even a step further. This is the people who invest in the idea of decentralization.
Yeah.
But when it suits them, but I love the government if my money was stolen. What have we done in that, right?
So yeah, it's a double standard out of the community, you know, and
do we think that's an issue for the entire crypto sphere? I'm serious, guys. Think about it for a second.
I wonder, just quickly as well, if this is the shift from, and I don't know which investors these represent, but is this the shift from the sort of cypherpunk anarcho-capitalists who kicked off the movement, back in 2013, really investing then in when it was truly for the sake
of... It was hardcore cyberpunk.
Exactly, the ideologues were there, and are these guys the next wave of speculators back from 2016, 17 who got in early or got in late or whatever, obviously if they've lost money, been scammed. But I can't help but feel that that's part of this shift. I don't exactly know who these
that's where I'm
people are,
heading. Is this some sort of an ideological shift? Because let's face it, if Facebook enters the sphere, it's not going to be a decentralized sphere.
Hopefully.
Right? Okay, it's not going to be decentralized. We shouldn't even masquerade it. Here are people who love the idea of a decentralized space until they lose money and then they run, I'm going to, basically metaphor, and then they run back to mommy. And then what do we want? Doesn't this sphere need some sort of a clear vision of where it's heading?
I think that
what do you think it's
when you look at fundamentals, when you are investors, you should look at fundamentals. If you believe in decentralization, so you should look of what is decentralized and what is not decentralized. And there's a clear cut, there's a clear line for people who live in this sphere, who knows the difference between the different projects. And if they put their money on projects they don't know, they can't come later and claim weird claims. Sorry, I mean, these are like, it doesn't make any sense.
You do have to have set of rules that will be, to have the standards, okay? Because when you want new people to come into this game and you want to have our pension invest in it and to other people to invest for...
To me, that's mass adoption, when it gets into pensions. So when people believe in it enough to invest their future.
But who will make the decision? It's not you who's going to make the decision, right? So the one who's going to make this decision needs somebody to protect us from where he's investing his money. And exactly this is why we have to have regulation on this.
And I agree wholeheartedly, but that to me is a forward-looking problem, not a backwards-looking problem. The people who have been scammed, the people who have lost money, I'm sorry, you got into a space early, you won some, you lost some, whatever. I completely agree. Looking forward, regulation needs to be in place, there needs to be insurance, there needs to be security in the way that the banking sector has now. Of course, you're not going to get a pension fund in there risking everything that some hacker comes and steals.
Right, and also why the EU? Yeah. What are they going to do with this?
Yeah, the claim about the claim that...
They're not having such an easy time already.
And other things to do.
The claim that the nodes are all in the EU is like a ridiculous claim. I don't understand it. I don't think they have a case.
I think there are a lot of ridiculous claims in this sphere.
I mean, people are trying,
People are trying, and actually it's a beautiful segue to the next one. Is this the Satoshi we were hoping for? Apropos ridiculous claims. The mystique and fascination with the inventor of Bitcoin will likely never go away. So a new story out of investinblockchain.com claims that Paul Solochi Calder-LaRue, it's a great name, a 46-year-old criminal mastermind, the creator of encryption software E4M and TrueCrypt, and author of an uncannily similar manifesto to the one in Bitcoin's white paper in 1998, could be Satoshi Nakamoto. But that's not all. Paul Solochi Calder-LaRue employs similar spelling and language in his writing style that of Satoshi, and on top of that, he's been in jail since 2012. Which could explain why Satoshi himself supposedly disappeared from the sphere since 2012, I think, or why he hasn't moved his 1 million Bitcoin. There's also a Craig Wright connection, but first of all, wonderful story. That aside, real or not, your thoughts, and why do we keep getting fascinated by this guy? Go ahead.
I think this is a part of Bitcoin narrative. I mean, who's Satoshi? This is the mysterious. It's very attractive for a lot of people, But saying that, it's also, when you come to understand Bitcoin, you understand it doesn't really matter. And this is what is nice about Bitcoin, because it doesn't really matter who is behind it, because Bitcoin is an open source and it does not govern by anybody, and people are looking for a governor. It's the nature
of the nature of mankind. It goes back to I need somebody in charge of this.
Yeah, and they're looking who he is, and this is why we see these stories with Craig Wright. They say the same about Nick Szabo, by the way, that the handwriting is similar and that the style is similar. And we see
It's
these
you,
stories.
isn't it?
What?
Just kidding.
Maybe, I don't know.
Could be the
But-
tactics to accuse everyone who comes on the show. Like, you, Satoshi.
Yeah, and we can.
It doesn't really matter, but you gave me a great point to actually pose to you guys. Right, it doesn't matter who Satoshi is. That's it. When Craig Wright claims that he is Satoshi Nakamoto, he manages by 200% to up the price of BSV.
Right.
So it does play a certain role in that respect, that people, granted, yes, mankind needs a god, but that also shows that it's so much manipulation and, dare I say, so much bullshit, in this sphere. Because Craig Wright has had an amazing month when it comes to BSV. He's had a very good month, and all based on what seems like lies. Isn't that a problem for space?
Well, it's prestige, but
It sounds so much better when you call it
Exactly,
prestige.
prestige sounds much better. Yes.
But just show me the money. We know what are the addresses, right? Just take one Bitcoin out of everything you've got there, and just let us know which date, which time you're going to transfer this one Bitcoin from the known address to a different one, and we will all believe you. This is it.
But that's the thing. We in the sphere, the thing is the people outside of the sphere don't seem to care.
Right.
They see a headline that says Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto in some invented Chinese website that went up, this week. Complete lie. But it has the effect of an actual piece of information, and it ups the price of BSV.
But particularly, I think that speaks so much to the immaturity of the market as it stands. They're still so driven by ego. Like this guy, say his name again.
Wait, I'm going to say it
You
again.
need to have blockchain.
You want me to say it again? It's
insert
coming.
all his
Paul
names.
Salochi Calder LaRue.
Oh, one more time. I could hear you say that. The LaRue, it just rolls
I'm
off
sorry,
the tongue.
Tina. Can you guys leave? Just kidding. Go ahead.
No, but seriously, the immaturity in the market, the lack of the sort of ego-driven politics that's still so at play here, that it comes to a point of who gets trusted by whom.
Yeah.
An institutional investor is in play. All right, sure, in the sort of equity market space, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, they certainly have power, and I don't think that will wane necessarily, but that's through an extensive, proven track record. And it doesn't shift whole markets hundreds of percentage points, in either direction. I think it's just a case of there is just far too many egos fighting, too many chefs in the kitchen, as it were, and it needs to grow and mature to the point where we can move beyond this sort of petty politicking. But as it stands, there's a lot of power in the name.
And again, we're having this conversation, folks, in 2019, where it appears to be that a lot of administrations of power around the world do the same thing. I will leave it at that. This one stings a bit, but are they wrong? And I think, Or, you're going to like this. Bloomberg, the mother of mainstream financial outlets, this week had an in-depth piece titled "Bitcoin's Rally Masks the Uncomfortable Fact Almost Nobody Uses It." It has been causing a stir in the sphere. According to the report, hardly anyone is using the world's largest cryptocurrency for anything beyond speculation. The story is based on info from blockchain researcher Chainalysis, which shows that only 1.3% of economic transactions came from merchants in the first 4 months of 2019. So first of all, is the cryptosphere too touchy? Are they actually right?
They're
That's-
right.
oh,
Of
go
course
ahead.
they're right. When was the last time you used your Bitcoin? I tell you when was mine, sadly. We had a conference. Yeah, it was in January.
This year,
we had
January
a conference,
2019.
and speakers wanted to get paid in Bitcoin, which was then worth 3,000 or maybe 40.
January was in the low point.
Yeah,
it was 3,000,
3,000.
3,200, something like that.
We
yeah.
paid them in Bitcoin that was worth 3,000. Now look how much we have lost, because the
Wow.
price was not in Bitcoin, the price was in US dollars,
Right.
to pay by Bitcoin. So we should not be paying with Bitcoin for anything, because
It's so volatile.
exactly. And
I mean, you wouldn't be saying this if the price
and
would drop to
we are
2.
not the last, stupid or something. There's a lot of people that hold their Bitcoin because they don't want this kind of mess. They don't want to be surprised that they have lost, 60% after this.
Look, the idea is that many people that the whales are holding, most of it, they're huddling, sorry. Everybody's holding their Bitcoin and not using it, right?
Yeah, there are advantages in using Bitcoin. I think that looking at it from...
No, what are the advantages? Who's using it? Who's using it?
So there are remittances that
Yeah.
can be using it. There are several use cases.
Sarah, but wasn't the vision of
but-
Satoshi peer-to-peer digital
I don't know.
cash?
I don't know
Yeah.
about the vision of Satoshi, but I do know that Bitcoin is a very influential economic experiment that is taking place. In terms of history, 10 years is not a long time. I mean, you have the Lightning Network starting to appear, which can help in solve many problems in the case of payments. So it's only evolving. I think we are in an early stage, so it's very natural for it to behave in this manner. There are use cases. It now proves the use case of store of value and the use case of, and yeah,
Does it
there
prove
are.
the store of value?
Well, I mean, I think it does, and I think Guy is correct in this, that it allows the transferring. I mean, remittances is such an incredibly important one, but just generally transferring wealth internationally, whether you're moving from an exchange where you can onboard to or offboard from a certain fiat to another fiat, or whether you're using it to move value between places. For those who live and work in international settings, I mean, yes, you might not necessarily be using it day to day in activities, but maybe it's your savings account, maybe it's your, or however you choose to utilize it. But that doesn't mean that it's not still effective as a store of value case and as a currency in the sense that you can use it in times of dire need. People aren't necessarily functionally day-to-day buying their rugs and goods with it, but I still think
I
it
mean,
has.
nobody's using it for that risk. Would you agree with that, or? I mean, I have a hard time.
A lot of people does not, most of the people does not use it. It's the volatile issue, it's the technical issue, and when people are using it as just for, for trade and for speculation and for making money out of it.
This is the bulk of what it's used for.
For
Trade and
now.
speculation, for now.
No,
Yeah.
no
Okay,
doubt about it,
so-
but we ask, whether the interesting thing about Bitcoin that it can serve all these use cases, and now it serves this use case. I
I know,
believe
but doesn't the price of it in its future depend on adoption? I mean, if it's not mass adopted, isn't there a danger? And I agree with you, 10 years is nothing. It also enables something to disappear if it is not adopted. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, but adoption doesn't require use as a currency. I mean, when was the last time you used your bar of bullion to go out and buy a rug or a house? I don't go out with my gold bullion
for
and
your
buy.
vision of cryptocurrency, it kind of does, because cryptocurrency should be currency. It's not like you buy gold, okay? So
It's not yet the main store of
Oh,
value yet. Exactly. It's just supposed to be a currency.
So we don't want to sit here and wait for a block 21 to achieve it and then say, okay, this is it, no more volatile
Bitcoin?
market.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we want the adoption to come earlier so we can use it. And how is it going to come?
Yeah, but people work by their incentives, and I think that the incentive now is to keep it. But there will come a time, maybe it will be an economic crisis, maybe it will be a time when people need
I'm going to
buy-
finish Ora's sentence because she's about to say Facebook, right?
This is why I
For
entered.
global coin.
This is why I entered.
And how is it going to come? Via 3 billion users, right? No, but I stopped you. Yeah, what are they going to do with it? How are they going to do it with when? I fear, because 60 Minutes, apropos, I keep referencing it, the end of their report several weeks ago was this woman from MIT who's in the blockchain, and the crypto lab of MIT. And she said, look, this whole thing can disappear. We're still so shaky that we don't know this could be it. This may not last. And I'm wondering if you guys agree with this.
I think so. I think that Bitcoin is an idea. It's not a currency. It's not an asset or whatever definition you might add to
idea.
it. It's an idea, and it's happened already. It's here already. Look at what it does, the ripples that it makes. Ripple is one of the ripples, and I mean, and this is the story. The idea is happen, and Bitcoin has its own characteristics that make him unique in this sphere. So I believe it won't disappear so quickly. There should be something massive for it to disappear, like to go beyond zero. And
I mean, look at the market cap. There is like 250 billions. I don't know.
Yeah.
To wipe it off, it's like to wipe off a small country. Hell, you can wipe off Israel, and this is the market cap. It's not going to go away. People are investing in it. Companies are investing in it. Facebook are coming. Starbucks are coming. Walmart are coming.
Walmart are here.
Yeah,
and Walmart. That's actually a brilliant way to almost conclude this. Before that, I'm going to give you guys a bit of an alcohol break. Benny, the blockchain bartender, who is so enthralled by this conversation. Yes, no. I do believe that everybody deserves a bit more whiskey. There you go. Because we're going to a mass adoption case.
There.
Being so polite and quaint. I think that's the whiskey. And I think Asher deserves another beer. Yeah. So say that Benny is the use case of this cure. Okay. Thank you. Finally, mass adoption.
Cheers.
I've been Salut, Madame et Monsieur. There we go. There we go. I've always been wondering why, and we're gonna, this leads us to mass adoption and use cases. To me, blockchain, the technology, always was perfect for tracking one of the things that are so important in this world, and that is pharmaceuticals. Okay, and Walmart is on the train right now, on the blockchain train. And actually, since 2016, they've already had one project, and now they're betting on blockchain again. Giant retailer Walmart has joined forces with MediLedger, following in the footsteps of Pfizer as pharma companies discover the block. It has long been hailed as the best solution for medical tracking, and not just that, I think also for blood tests. I think for medical information of people. Think about it. If our medical information went on the blockchain, some argue it could save lives as opposed to, going, if you transfer countries and whatnot. Why has it not been the mass adoption use case thus far? Don't we think blockchain is ready to be used completely in pharmaceuticals?
Well, I do, but I do believe that the MediLedger is not there yet.
Tell me why.
I just went to their website, to really understand what they're doing, because this is decentralized, but there are some level of privacies, and
you did the research.
Yeah, I tried to, but from what I understand, this is not like the blood result or the medical information that's going to save the world.
It's supply chain.
Exactly.
It's supply chain at this point. Why is it? But don't we think the blockchain is ready to keep information?
Yes, I do think, but this is an ERP on blockchain, and I think all ERP should be on blockchain, right? But this is not what we were dreaming about when we say that you can go into a hospital, nobody will actually knows you, but there is an information on blockchain that can save your life. This is not
exactly. Why aren't we there yet?
But there's a secondary factor to this as well, and whether the reality of the situation bears this out, the way people think about it is having their data on an immutable distributed ledger throughout time immemorial. And yes, of course, I understand that privacy standards can be put in place, but for your average user, for your average organization, for your average government trying to sell this as a policy to people, people might not be so comfortable with that idea.
That's what I'm thinking too. Although I agree. I think it can save people's lives. I think that if you're, the scenario, you're in somewhere across the world, you just have a heart attack or something like that, you're picked up the street, you're brought into a hospital, they can save you in minutes because your medical info is on the blockchain. Nobody to call, no issues with language. This could be a major change.
Right. But how do you ensure that that's only accessible to the people you want it to be accessible to? How do I ensure that my employer, when I go for a new job, doesn't look up and find out he's got a heart condition, or he's going to cost me a lot, he's going to, how do I ensure the legitimacy of that? Do you only keep it with hospitals, but then who's administering that system? It's a lot of responsibility to ensure it's done well, and there are a lot of governments that wouldn't trust, and medical organizations that wouldn't trust to put together.
Doesn't it? Exactly.
An effective blockchain.
Yeah, I also don't know what is the advantage of blockchain in this aspect.
In the sphere?
In this aspect, relative to regular database. I do see the advantage in theory, but it doesn't come. I haven't seen yet proven in field. A lot of companies, blockchain used to be a word that described like the technological ecosystem of Bitcoin, and now it became really hyped, and a lot of companies...
Really hyped is the technology to try to be used for other things. I agree.
Yeah, but IBM is trying to do stuff with blockchain, and Microsoft is trying to do stuff with blockchain since 2013. We haven't seen like a proven use case for these technologies, and I do hope, and I do wait to hear like tangible news that I can count on and say, okay, blockchain has other use case other than decentralizing a currency, you know.
Kumbaya. Yeah. I know.
So I'm optimistic and enthusiastic about the innovative side of it, but I'm standing aside because I saw so many projects that are talking about what they're going to do, and time passes and they're not doing it.
No, but I mean, there is a use case in terms of it existing functionally outside of currencies, and that's logistics on a larger scale, particularly any logistics that require international movements. Shipping is a huge one.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree on
shipping,
this one.
That is something where it is just,
it's a game changer.
It is almost, it is a game changer. And in a world where that's such a growing industry, and we discussed this before, it's unparalleled in its capacity to make it movable, tangible, trackable, to reduce scamming, whether human trafficking, illegal trafficking, arms, tracking of arms, keeping track of all these sort of
arms, very important.
Yeah, hugely powerful, something that we can actually really use it for, where the governments are going to be willing to have that sort of accountability.
Again, I agree, and I do want to see these technologies prove themselves. I mean, this is what I'm saying. Right. I do want to see them in a 5 years time from now.
Or as we're about to wrap this, and I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen of this panel, you've been phenomenal. Or I was going to finish your sentence. You're yet to see mass adoption, or raise your glass. You're about to by the end of the month.
Cheers.
If indeed that report is true, thank you so much for being with us on Blockchain and Booze here on BLOCKTV. This was it. We'll be right back.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter